Well, hello, folks. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. Where we take a look at these markets, we do it from a neoclassical perspective each time, asking ourselves what happened today. What does it tell us about the coming ones? Do a show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube. It's under the channel L.A. Little. If you want, reach up on the right-hand side, subscribe. Anytime content's pushed, you'll get notification that there's something out there for you to read. As far as what happened today, another day of consolidation. The only thing that was really interesting today is we actually saw some change in behavior, and that change was here. It was in the Russell. The Russell outperformed all day long. That's a little bit of the rotation that I think this market has to have if it's going to try to continue higher. We saw everything else pretty much down across the board here. Elsewhere overseas, same thing, down across the board there. Oil pops up. We actually had the gas market up too. The dollar was up, but not that much, kind of gave it up towards the end. Gold down again, another sign of weakness in that market. So some rotation, some weakness across the board, pretty much across all the indexes around the world, but nothing major. If we take a look at the equities themselves, let's pop over to the S&P 500 to start the daily chart. Here you actually have a little test of a downside, less volume. That says this thing's going to try to hang here, maybe try to go higher. If you look at the NASDAQ NDX, really nothing there. They tested over the top, underneath, lighter volume. Doesn't really tell me much of anything. Same thing on the NDX. The one that did tell us something was the Russell, and that is that this thing closed over that breakdown bar. That was what we were watching. It was the breakdown bar here, right? That was the idea, is like, can you get over it and stay over it? Can you get over this bar as well, which is essentially in the same price point? And then, of course, this bar was the other one from over here. And all of those Friday, it was right at them, trying to attack them. Today, it gets over it, pushes over the top. That says it can go after these highs now on the upside. So some distribution into the Russell that kind of makes sense this time of the year. That's typically what happens. It outperforms this time of the year. It also makes sense from the standpoint of a rising dollar. As the dollar goes higher, that makes it tougher on multinationals because they're selling in dollars, right? So it makes it harder for them to create demand for their products. Dollar's hanging right up here at the highs. Hasn't been able to get over them yet. It's testing into them, has light volume. If you look at the euro, though, it's actually the other way around. It's testing to the downside and testing with a little bit more volume. So this is mixed as to whether it's going to go higher or not. I can't really tell from the chart. It looks like it can try to push another time. 50% of the weighting's in the euro. So euro, we know Draghi wants to bring QE on, more QE. We keep hearing that we're going to see rate hikes in December, and that's making the dollar stronger against the euro and pushing that currency exchange rate to the north in favor of the dollar. That, of course, is putting pressure on commodities. We see gold going after that low again. It's probably going to try to test it tomorrow. Although on the GDX, right, the gold stocks, those guys are kind of hanging up here. They don't want to give it up. Quite a bit of a divergent behavior here, and that tells me that at some point you're going to see a heck of a rally to the top side. Copper, industrial metals, all of those hammered lower. Copper had a huge spike in volume, and as it hit new lows, multi-year lows, lows that go back all the way to 2009. If we look at the bond market tried to rally today, but really couldn't get anywhere. It just pushed up a bit and then just hung there. So really, the only thing that we saw was the rotation into the small caps today. Here's the oil market, nothing there either. Rotation in the small caps really was about the only standout today. One thing I would note is you continue to see sell-offs in the junk bond space, in the high yield bonds as well, which are higher yield corporate debt. That How far that can go and how wide that spread can get with respect to treasuries is anyone's guess. It's a red flag that's out there, just like a rising dollar is a red flag for the equity markets. But so far, anything that's a red flag just simply gets picked up, stuffed back in the pocket, and the market just moves on up. It'll matter at some point. Right now, it doesn't really matter that much. If we look overseas, really nothing happening over there. If we look at the major sectors, not a lot happening there either. The only thing I would note was that even though we did see some rotation into the small caps today, we continue to see pressure on those things that have led us up, like the consumer discretionary. Nobody wants to give that up. Technology was pushing up towards the top today, a little bit down, but really no volume. And remember, we had the industrials rotation into last week, a little bit pullback today. This is doing a bullish retest, regenerate off this prior swing point that it broke last week. So this is going to be an interesting test to see if that rotation can complete and continue. So in other words, do you get this push up, a little pullback into this area, and then an ABCD structure to take it higher and rotate into it? This, if you look at it from a trend perspective, was the first time we've seen, if we come over here, is the first time we've seen three trends, or not three, but three of these now have changed to sideways. You've got the industrials. I'll bring this over for you. You've got the industrials, you've got the discretionary, and the technology. Usually, as I tell you, when 2 to 3 of these change, typically you're going to get more of the same to the direction of that change. And so that would argue that for the rest of this year, because this is a weekly, we're going to see more and more of these trying to transition. And if that's the case, then that means to me you're going to see these change as well. That's it for tonight. As far as tomorrow, it looks to me like more of the same. You're coming into Thanksgiving. You're coming into a slow part of the year where the typical behavior is just to grind higher, and that kind of looks like what we're probably going to get. Have a great night. As always, tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is and was your daily NeoTA wrap. Have a great night. I'll see you next time. Good night.